This is the for Parsha Dvar Canaan. This Parsha Canaan is my Parsha. It is read the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av. The Shabbat is also called Shabbat Nechama after the Haftarah reading from Yeshaya 40. Well, a lot of the Parashot discuss things that we don't do nowadays, like the sacrifices or the rural mitzvot, unless you're on a farm. This Parsha has a lot that we can relate to and a lot that are is familiar to us. One thing that I am interested in is an alternative history. Usually it starts with one event in our timeline didn't happen, and another event takes its place. For example, Harry Turtledove has a whole series of books where he, where the South had won the Civil War instead of the North. And the event starts with where this in our timeline the South had plans to attack the North, but in our timeline these plans were discovered. But in the alternate timeline used in Turtledove's books, the North didn't find the information about the attack, so the South had a surprise attack in Philadelphia that ended the war. It caused the South to win the war, and the rest of the book, all the different series of books, it goes on what would have happened after that. Like there was a second Civil War, and then in Germany, and then with World War One, Germany and what's our U.S. is allies with the Germans, and the South is with the French and the English, and the Americans and the Germans won the war, and they exact very painful reparations after World War II, and then World War One and World War II starts, where the Germans against the occupied South, and the leader of the South is kind of like a Hitler. He's killing all the black people. Well, if Torah writes what he thinks happens in this universe, and then what does all this have to do with this parsha? Sometimes wonder that what would have happened if this parsha wasn't in the Torah. I would have a difficult time with it, as it would be a very totally different Judaism than today. The parsha begins with Moshe praying to be allowed into the promised land. According to Jewish tradition, he prayed over 500 times, and I think it's like 519 times. But he still isn't allowed to go to the promised land with the people. In fact, God tells him after praying so many times to stop praying that he's not going to go, no matter what. So, what would have happened if Moses had been allowed to go into the land with the people? And that would be anybody's guess. Maybe more of the land would be occupied or something. The Shabbat would be different in this version of the Ten Commandments in this parsha is different from the one in Shemot. So without this parsha, we would not be called to keep the Shabbat. So the Kadadi would not be sung, or it would be a different version, and then you'll be no Shomer Shabbat. And I'm not really sure what Shabbat would be like. It might be like, okay, I remembered the Shabbat, so what do we do now? Go on and do like live every other day. Next to go would be Jewish education. It plays a large role in this portion. I'm not sure that it gets as covered in other parshot as it does in this one. So the importance of Torah study would be lacking, and also the importance of education as a whole. Next comes the Shema and the Ve'ahavta. Both are in this parasha, that Canaan. So we wouldn't be saying them several times a day. And this is a biggie, as this is pretty much the definition of what Judaism and Kabbalah are. We wouldn't know that God is one and that we are to love Him with all our heart, soul, and mind. And I don't really have any idea why it would take its place of the Shema and the Ve'ahavta. But here in this reality, we have the Shomer Shabbats. We place importance to Jewish education. We have the Shema and the Ve'ahavta. We have all of this, and I am thankful for that.